Bill, we know with inflation doing what it's doing that we need some slowing in the economy. Is this too much, or is this appropriate, the appropriate reset that's needed?
Inflation sort of tells the Fed where they need to go ultimately, but inflation expectations tell them how quickly they need to get there.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. These last few days have been really great for Bitcoin. What was looking like a dead end seemed to show some light at the end. Bitcoin gained pace and cleared the $24,000 resistance against the US dollar. Now, many eyes are on BTC's next gain. In this video, we'll cover Lyn Alden's viewpoint on Bitcoin, its developments. Stay tuned to know if she believes Bitcoin is dead or not, and if Bitcoin has reached its all-time low or not. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos on crypto and market conditions. Let's dive right into it.
So it's obviously hard to say for sure. I mean, back when Bitcoin was trading around 30,000, there were some signs that, maybe the bottom was in. We had some capitulation. Of course, this whole thing was another leg lower. And so it does seem at the moment, at least, that the worst of the selling, that the rapid selling, the liquidations are behind us. But there's still not a lot of bullish catalysts at the moment in terms of the macro landscape. And so I wouldn't rule out, obviously, further down, movements in the price. But I do think that, based on most ways of kind of valuing Bitcoin or looking at Bitcoin's history, we are in kind of a deep value zone here. And for example, we're below currently the average on-chain cost basis. And so, it's something like the fifth time in history that Bitcoin's been in that position. And so I at least view this as an opportunity for dollar cost averaging. And maybe layering in if someone was on the fence or concerned about maybe euphoria or high valuations before. But I don't think investors should ever rule out more downward legs as long as the macro situation is this uncertain.
More downward can be predicted for Bitcoin as long as the macro situation is uncertain. There's a lot of volatility this year. Bitcoin has dropped a lot this year, and now there's an argument if Bitcoin as an inflation hedge is hurt by this recent crash. Let's hear Lyn Alden's thoughts on this.
Yes, this is probably lower than I would have expected as a base case. In my research, I was outlining the fact that Bitcoin historically has not done very well in economic decelerating environments. So let's say Purchasing Managers Index and other economic indicators like that, when they start decelerating, generally that's been Bitcoin sideways action or outright bear markets. And I wasn't sure if this one would be different because of the high inflation, but so far obviously it's proven not to be. And so there were a lot of reasons to be defensive for this year about it being an inflation hedge. One thing that I think is very clear is that there's different types of inflation. There's monetary inflation, and then there's price inflation that often comes with a lag after that monetary inflation. And what we've actually seen for the most part is that Bitcoin is correlated very strongly with money supply growth, global M2, especially as measured in dollars. And so over the past couple of years, as we got that huge ramp up in broad money supply around the world, Bitcoin did very well. And then ironically, when, actually as one would expect, when you started to get a reduction in the amount of money supply growth, and you started to see the Fed and some other central banks actually try to push back on the price inflation that was materializing, that's when Bitcoin has, and many other assets for that matter, have begun to struggle. So I would say that Bitcoin's been a useful hedge against monetary inflation, but that precedes the actual price inflation.
It's safe to say that Bitcoin has not done very well in economically decelerating environments, especially with price inflation. The reason for this is that when economies are slowing down, people tend to hold on to their fiat currency rather than selling it for a riskier asset like Bitcoin. This is because in times of economic hardship, people need their fiat currency to buy essential goods and services. Thus, we see that Bitcoin's price falls when there's an economic slowdown. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Also, be sure to give a big thumbs up before we go ahead discussing the developments, adoption of Bitcoin, as well as Lyn Alden's thoughts on if Bitcoin is dead or not.
I'm not a regulatory expert. My understanding of Genser's position is that he's using that as a tool because a lot of exchanges are doing things that the SEC is not thrilled about. So a lot of them have tokens on them that are probably considered securities. And in this context, they would be unregistered securities. I also think that there are some concerns about price manipulation on those exchanges. So Genser's made it clear that he thinks Bitcoin itself would fall under the description of being a commodity. But obviously any things like an ETF or any securities that are based on Bitcoin are under the purview of the SEC. And so I think in his view, he's using that as a tool in order to help the exchanges clean up, or kind of using that as leverage to get the exchanges to clean up. But I think it's somewhat backfiring in many ways, because it means that consumers in the meantime have inferior products if they want to own Bitcoin through their brokerage, right? So obviously, if they there are better ways to just buy Bitcoin directly and self-custody it. That's the best way to own Bitcoin. But the reality of the situation is that many people do want to own Bitcoin in their brokerage accounts, and so the fact that there's no spot ETF gives them just a host of inferior products to do that. And so I think that, one hand, it would be good to clean up the exchanges and to get them more kind of clarity about their regulations and how they can operate, and how, what are their processes for listing the different tokens that they do. But on the other hand, I think that, consumers would be better off if they had a spot ETF to work with.
Discussing the ETF, there is news that investors in Germany can now trade Bitcoin using standard brokerage services, thanks to the launch of a new ETN. Then we had the news that M1 Finance, one of the biggest US brokerages, is in the process of rolling out crypto accounts and commission-free trading. The Swiss Post Office is also planning to offer cryptocurrency trading and custody services by 2024. There are so many things going on around Bitcoin, so saying Bitcoin is dead, is that right or not? Let's see what Lyn Alden thinks on this matter.
I think it's sleeping. Like I said before, it generally does pretty poor in all these economic decelerating environments. This one has unfortunately been no different. But I think if you look at a lot of fundamental indicators, the underlying situation's healthy. And so, for example, if you look at the number of small on-chain Bitcoin holders, that's actually gone up pretty significantly during the sell-off. And also, I'm really bullish on what we're seeing on the Lightning Network. I think development is continuing there very strongly, and we're actually still seeing a lot of volumes and a lot of growth on the Lightning Network. And so I think when you look past the fact that Bitcoin collateral is used in a lot of this altcoin trading, I think it got caught up in rehypothecation. I think we've obviously had a big liquidation across the industry, and that's not great for price. But I think the underlying network strength is actually showing a lot of good signs at the moment.
Environmentally looking, Bitcoin is deeply wounded, but according to Lyn, if you look at a lot of fundamental indicators, the underlying situation is healthy. Investors and enthusiasts continue to venture into the world of cryptocurrencies, despite an ongoing winter that has seen Bitcoin lose value by almost 70%. Many believe that the cryptocurrency market is still in its early stages and has a lot of potential growth. Even the New York Yankees MLB team has partnered with NYDIG to enable its employees to be paid in Bitcoin. A number of small chain Bitcoin holders have also gone up during the sell-off. The Lightning Network is still in development, but we are already seeing a lot of growth and adoption. Chub K, an island in the Bahamas, is actively looking for a Lightning Network wallet provider to launch a Bitcoin standard to pioneer the financial inclusion. Lyn doesn't believe Bitcoin is dying. It has been wounded for now, but it doesn't mean it can't get back on its feet in the future. So what are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments below what you think about the recent Bitcoin rally. Has Bitcoin as an inflation hedge been hurt in this crash? How long will it take for Bitcoin to reach back to its all-time high? That's it for today's video. I'll see you guys in my next one, so be sure to subscribe, like, and share. Also hit that bell icon to never miss any videos. Adios.